Fam, what's good? It's your boy Thou, FamOverTV. I appreciate everybody tapping into the channel, showing love, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, everything. I got a good one today. We're gonna be talking about the missing 411. I mean, when I just heard about this story the other day, it's very, very interesting, and it's very, very like it's crazy. It's a mystery. Like what's going on with these people just vanishing in these parks and like without a trace. So we're gonna go over these videos. These videos are for entertainment purposes only. I appreciate everybody tapping into the channel. Everybody. We reached 23,000 subscribers. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. And let's get into it.
About the National Parks Conspiracy. A book was released by a former police officer by the name of David Paulides, and he wrote a book called Missing 411. Missing 411 is about missing people in the national parks in North America. If you don't know, there is a surprisingly large amount of people who have gone missing in national parks in recent years. The national park with the most missing persons per year on average is this one right above me, Lake Mead. It's not exactly uncommon for people to go missing in national parks. People have gone missing in national parks and state forests for years. However, some of the stories about people going missing in some of these state forests and national parks are incredibly bizarre. If you're interested in reading about these disappearances, you can read the Missing 411 books, which can be found on the author's website. You can also watch the documentary, too. Part 2 with more information coming up.
The 411 Conspiracy Theory. TW, Unsettling Images. The 411 Theory is a theory which suggests that the hundreds of people that go missing in national parks each year is not a coincidence, but is the cause of creatures like wendigos hunting them. This may be a bold statement to be said, but let me explain my reasoning. In Native American folklore, wendigos are known to be commonly found in caves. Many national parks are known for having many caves within their boundaries. These complex cave systems extend for miles on end and are not graphed properly due to them being hazardous, so that brings up the question, could there be something hiding within these caves? The majority of people disappear near these cave systems without a trace. The top diagram displays the locations of cave systems located within the United States. The bottom diagram displays the locations of people who disappeared without a trace. Many search parties who went to try to find these people found nothing or only found the belongings of missing people. An argument that is often proposed is that wild animals like cougars could have eaten them. But cougars and other wild animal attacks on humans are rare, and they aren't capable to digest entire human skeletons. So they must leave a trace of the body. Pretty suspicious if you ask me. The world has many unexplored areas, so that ponders the question, could there be an apex predator hiding within the shadows? The world has many incidents that are better off staying mysteries. Thank you all for watching.
That spooky music that they put behind that was irritating, man. Oh my
God. And this is where the missing 411 come from.
The missing information? What missing information?
No, the missing 411.
What do you mean by that?
Which is all these people have mysteriously disappeared in force. And they don't know
you're not
how.
talking about the missing 411 like information.
No.
So missing 411 is the number of people that have been abducted?
Yeah, and it's all really weird because they all have like a lot of similar characteristics. German-born, like German background, highly intelligent, and it like I don't know how weird you want to get, bro.
I want to get weird.
Okay, bro. They think like this might be some time-traveling Nazi shit, bro. I know you're gonna think I'm crazy, but it's true, dude.
Aaron Hedges went missing on September 5th, 2014 while elk hunting in the Crazy Mountains in Montana. This was an area he knew like the back of his hand and spent every other weekend up there, in the words of his friends. 2 days after going missing, a huge snowstorm moved into the mountains. Rescue workers stumbled across his shoes and camelback water container. For someone to take off their shoes while there's 18 inches of snow on the ground seems to be a decision someone would make under severe hypothermia. But the strange thing is that 9 months later, his backpack was found 6 miles down the mountain next to a place where someone clearly sat and had a thermos of tea. To add to the mystery, from this location he could clearly see people's houses and a road, but never went to them. 1 year later, his remains were found not far from that location. The only explanation for such strange disappearances seems to be linked to something we don't understand. After researching UFOs and aliens for years, I've come to the conclusion they are a spiritual phenomenon, and that is leading me to research a potential dark spiritual phenomenon causing people to disappear. Let me know what you think. I know it sounds crazy. Leave in the comments what you think is happening in these strange disappearances.
It is.
What could be going on, y'all? Like, what y'all think going on? Could it just be like these people? Could it just be a coincidence? And could it be like some animals or something? But they saying some of these people, like, they show up. Some of these stories say they show up years or days later, and and they be back, and some of them might have passed away, but some of them showed up alive or something. I don't know. We finna check it out, but what y'all think is going on? Make sure y'all like the video and comment below, man. This crazy. Like, this is a crazy story right here.
It is an unfortunate reality of being human and living on planet Earth that sometimes people go missing without any clue as to what happened to them. One day they're here, the next day they're gone. There's no clear indication of what happened. And despite everybody else's best efforts, nothing is ever learned about what happened to them. And so their families and their friends, they're left with this void in their lives that I can only imagine how terrible that is. There's no closure. There's like that perpetual sense that if you could just find more information out, you could find out what happened to your loved one, to your friend, to your colleague. But many times, people never get that. These people just go missing and that's it. But in some cases where people suddenly go missing, they'll turn up again. Sometimes days, weeks, months, years later, in totally different locations from where they went missing. But sometimes, in very rare circumstances, these people that go missing will reemerge days, weeks, months, years later, not having any idea how they got there or what happened to them. And so today I'm going to share 3 of these reappearance stories. The first 2 are the most well-known, they're very famous, and the third one is not as well-known, but equally as intriguing. But before we get into today's 3 stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right place, because that is all I do, and I upload 3 to 4 times a week, if not more. So if that's something you'd be interested in, I would encourage you to please gently perform a lobotomy on the like button, and then subscribe to my channel, turn on all notifications, so you don't miss any of my 3 to 4 weekly uploads.
Make sure y'all hit that like button. That was cool.
In 1978, a 23-year-old named Stephen Kubacki was attending a college called Hope University in Michigan. It was a small Christian school where he was studying German and history. Stephen was a little more free-spirited than the typical student enrolled at Hope University, which was very conservative. He was a big-time outdoor enthusiast, and he loved to go skiing. In February of 1978, which was just months before Stephen was set to graduate, he decided he wanted to go on a solo ski trip around the Lake Michigan area. And so this area was known as the Lake Michigan Triangle. It's also known as just the Michigan Triangle, and it's an awful lot like the Bermuda Triangle, which is in that northern section of the Atlantic Ocean where planes and boats have gone missing over the years kind of inexplicably. Well, the Michigan Triangle is like that. And starting in the late 1800s, there were all these disappearances that started occurring in the Michigan Triangle area. And so Stephen was going to be skiing around the Lake Michigan area, and so he would be in the Michigan Triangle. Now, he had told his friends and his family that he was just going out for a day trip, and Stephen was a very accomplished outdoorsman, excellent cross-country skier, so really no one bats an eye when he decides to go out and, go skiing. No one even thought twice about it. They're like, all right, cool, we'll see you tomorrow. A day after Stephen had left for this ski trip, some snowmobilers were out in the Michigan Triangle area, and they spotted a trail of ski tracks that led up to the edge of the lake, where at the edge of the lake were a set of skis and 2 ski poles. Just stopped abruptly, and they see that this looks like someone might have fallen into the lake. Now, there weren't any clear breaks in the lake itself, but they figured it was worth telling police and to at least let them know in case they're looking for someone who might have gone missing in the area. And so it was around this time that Stephen Kubacki's friends and family started to recognize that he wasn't back yet, and he should have been. And so they end up calling in an official missing persons report because he should have been back. And so the two things happened in tandem. You have the snowmobilers that have found the ski poles and the skis, and you have the missing persons report that's come out for Stephen Kubacki, and immediately they're connected, and this massive search effort is launched with a focus on where those skis and the poles were found. Now, they looked everywhere, but it was like his tracks went right up to the edge of the lake and then just stopped. There weren't any more tracks on the lake. There were no breaks in the lake. There was nothing there. It was like he just suddenly either went into the ground or just vanished somehow. And so as hundreds of people have descended on this area to look for Steve Kubacki, his backpack shows up right next to his skis and ski poles. That was the first place that everybody went, and his backpack wasn't there. And they didn't really even know how to investigate it. It was just this weird phenomenon where all these people are like, I guess it just must have been there the whole time. They just didn't have a good answer for it. And so after a long and very elaborate search, ultimately they had to call it off. And so they told the family and friends that what must have happened is he got out of his skis and put everything down, went onto the lake, and it cracked and he fell in. And so that's what everybody believed. I mean, why wouldn't they? 15 months go by, and Stephen's father hears a knocking on the door. And who's at the door? Stephen Kubacki. And when he sees his son, he can't believe it because he believed his son was dead. But Kubacki has no idea, Steve has no idea how much time has passed. He saw a newspaper, Stephen saw a newspaper in his father's house, and it showed that it had been 15 months since he disappeared. He asked his father, like, how can this be? And he told Stephen, you were near Lake Michigan. That's 700 miles away. How did you get here? And Stephen's like, I woke up in a field about 40 miles from here, and I went to, my aunt's house, your sister's house, and she brought me here. And no one had any idea how he got there or why he was in the field in Pittsfield to begin with. In addition, Stephen had on clothes that he didn't recognize. He had a new backpack that had maps and all sorts of kind of like trinkets from different parts of the country. He had been to apparently San Francisco, Sacramento, all over California, to Chicago, to Utah. He's been all over the country, according to the things that are in his backpack. He had $40 in cash, he had new sneakers, new glasses, and he had a t-shirt on from a Wisconsin marathon. It says he was a participant in. And one of the only things that Stephen would say to the media, because he basically swore off the media and he didn't want to give his story to anybody, he just said to one of the news outlets that he felt like he had been doing a lot of running. But other than that, we don't know what he was doing for 15 months, and apparently he doesn't.
That's crazy. What y'all think, man? Like, that's an amazing story. That's crazy right there. He had to get abducted by some aliens, and then they dropped him back off of somewhere. It's something out there in just, I don't know what happened, but that's a crazy story, man. Appreciate everybody who tapped in, man. Let's keep it going. Make sure you like the video.
8-year-old veteran outdoorsman went missing in the Olympic National Park on October 19th, 2021. While out to collect some deer sheddings on a trail he knew very well, he did not turn up to meet with his friends, and 4 days later, he was officially reported missing and his remains have never been found. What do you think happened to Dwayne? Like and follow for more.
Have you heard of all these people that go missing in national parks? So I've been looking into this phenomenon, and a lot of people have tied this to missing 411. One of the theories explaining these disappearances is that there are feral people that live deep within the national parks. There's this idea that these feral people may have lived out there for generations and no longer have any connection to our society, and most can't even speak our language anymore. So what happens to these missing people? Well, if you've seen movies like Wrong Turn or The Descent, well, you get the idea. If these missing people are found, which is rare, it's either a piece of them, their clothing, or they find a body where there was blunt force trauma that's used that's not typical of an animal attack. Some people who live near national parks or people hiking through have reported hearing cries for help, and when they call the park rangers, they say there's nothing to worry about, which has led some to think that they might be covering something up. Or perhaps there's something worse hiding out there that they don't want us to know about. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Seward, Alaska is a port city that's about 60 miles south of Anchorage, and it's home to one of the oldest foot races in America called the Mount Marathon Race. Now, this race is not actually a marathon because a marathon by definition is 26.2 miles long. The Mount Marathon Race is actually only 3 miles long, but it's considered one of the most challenging short races in the world because it's basically 1.5 miles straight up a mountain and then 1.5 miles straight back down again. Despite its grueling nature, there had never been a fatality or a disappearance during the running of this race, but that changed in 2012. 66-year-old Alaskan resident Paul LeMaitre was a career counselor on a military base in Anchorage. His job was to help outgoing military members adjust to civilian life, and his primary responsibility was helping them with their resume. Outside of work, Paul liked to keep himself in top physical shape, and one of his favorite activities was going for runs. And so in 2012, he finally committed to running the Mount Marathon Race, something he had wanted to do for some time, but he kept putting it off. In the months leading up to the race, Paul trained hard to make sure he was ready. He wasn't trying to win the race or really even be competitive. He just wanted to finish the race in a respectable time. So at 3 p.m. on July 4th, 2012, Paul found himself at the start of the Mount Marathon Race, and his family was on the sidewalk cheering him on. The race director fired the starting gun, and Paul, along with 500 other racers, took off. For reference, a man of Paul's age and physical fitness level should be able to complete this race in about 2 hours or less. But at 5 p.m., when virtually all the other runners had finished the race and Paul was nowhere to be found, his family members were concerned, but they knew he wasn't trying to win the race. They knew he was probably going to be on the slower end, but they were now starting to pay attention and were anxious for him to show up. 45 minutes later, a race timing crew up at the top of the mountain at the turnaround point began breaking down their setup. About 15 minutes later, when they were done, they started walking down the mountain right as Paul showed up at the top. And they said to him, "You are the last racer on this course. Do you still want to continue?" And he said, "Yes, I definitely still want to continue." And so the timing crew said, "That's fine. Just take your time, be careful, and we'll see you at the bottom." And so the timing crew, they take off right in front of Paul, going straight down this well-marked course, and they would turn around and see Paul standing there, catching his breath, getting ready to make his own descent. And so the timing crew, who was moving much faster than Paul, very quickly got out of sight of him. And so before long, they were at the bottom, they turned around, and there's no sign of Paul. So they went and found Paul's family and said, "Hey, we just spoke to him. He seems totally fine, but just so you know, if you don't see him in 90 minutes, I would contact the race officials and let them know, because he should be down by then." And so Paul's family sat at the bottom of this race, looking up, expecting to see him any moment, but 90 minutes came and went, and he never showed up. They wound up waiting another 30 minutes just in case, but again, he didn't show up, and so they informed race officials. The race officials immediately contacted the Alaskan State Trooper.
I feel like I have to address.
That's crazy. What y'all think happened to him? Like, everybody just disappeared like that during the race. Did something grab them out the woods and just take them? Is this something living in these national parks and woods? And like, is something like, is this stuff true? What's going on, man? Like, help me out. I know it's just conspiracies and stuff going on, but what is going on? People is just vanishing and becoming missing, and no questions to it. Like, that's scary. Like, they're not even talking about this. Like, I ain't know nothing about none of this type of stuff. Y'all comment, let me know what you think, man.
I have to address this every week. This was a comment on one of my Missing 411 videos. One of the more conspiratorial ones, if I'm being honest, but it was still a Missing 411 video. Missing 411 cases, I'm going to again go over this, as defined by the guy who wrote the books, David Paulides, have a specific profile. Things like location, national parks, there's not a scent trail, they have memory loss if they're found, they go missing near bodies of water, elevation changes, swamps, young children who go missing, missing clothing, boulder fields, things like that. It's not just people who got lost. And very often we're talking about people who were not alone when they went missing, and it's not like they went off hiking or they went to the bathroom and then disappeared. They disappeared right out from under the noses of their companions. This does not apply to all cases, but it does apply to many of them. So yes, there are missing persons cases where they just got lost, but that's not what Missing 411 cases are describing. It's a very specific set of circumstances.
There are so many missing kids in Oregon, it's ridiculous.
Accounts of children, people, vanishing, seemingly swallowed up by the many endless forests across America, or...
Hold on, I don't know why it's doing that. Let me go fix it. Let me go fix it. I appreciate everybody who tapped in, man. This is crazy. This is a crazy, 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 crazy topic. I hope I don't get in trouble for doing this. But hey, let's go.
It's ridiculous.
Accounts of children, people, vanishing, seemingly swallowed up by the many endless forests across America, or even later found in ways that defy logic.
These were unusual things that don't make sense, that happen to cluster together in 3 to 4, sometimes as many as 20, 30 people missing at one location.
He's mapped out what appear to be more than 30 clusters of vanishings in forests and national parks coast to coast. Some of those clusters and cases right here in Oregon. All of them documented and described in his 2 books.
According to Oregon State Police, there are 41 missing children in Oregon.
And now also in the movie Missing 411, releasing in a couple of months.
In a lot of these cases, search and rescue, or the volunteers searching people, have already gone over certain areas, not once, not twice, but even dozens of times. And then the child is found there, maybe a year, maybe a few years later.
The search coordinators themselves are baffled by it too. The ones they don't think is criminal in nature.
Man, there's too much going on out here. Like, it's so much going on. It's hard to keep up with everything that they doing, man. Like, what is going on? Some people say aliens, some people government, some people say they said it's pharaohs living out there, and it's a civilization living in the caves. And what is going on? Like, why is these people just popping up missing? I definitely believe there's some aliens out there, and I don't know, man. I wouldn't be going out there alone. I know that. I go out there with about 100 people.
73 years old,
it's happy whatever bird it is.
Dwight McCarter has spent his entire life in these mountains.
It may be a wren. Wrens do a lot of calling like that, you know.
While the retired ranger can name every plant and creature, his real talent is tracking.
My grandmother taught me to look for the white. She says, follow the white. It's where the child or the adult stepped on it, and it's real fresh.
One of the top man trackers in the nation, McCarter has assisted in more than 100 searches in the Smokies, but it's the first person in his logbook that's never been found.
Every Father's Day, the Martin family, the extended family, would go to Spence Field and camp.
It was June 14th in the summer of '69 when 6-year-old Dennis Martin, his brother and friends, planned a playful prank.
They hatched the idea of going and scaring the family who were setting up on this hill.
The boys split, Dennis heading one direction alone.
The 3 boys scared the family, and Dennis never showed up.
What followed is believed to be the largest search in park history.
The search area has expanded as the days stretch into a full week since the youngster was reported missing.
They amassed a whole lot of people, hundreds and hundreds of people. The U.S. Army with big Chinook helicopters.
Fresh out of the military himself, the young McCarter joined boots on the ground. Each day, as the search expanded, he believes the chances of finding Dennis diminished.
The second or the third day of the little boy missing, there were 1,400 people at Spence Field. That just does not work. It messed up all the tracks. If you're a tracker, that's the worst thing for you to do.
Nature created its own complications.
And then it come this terrible rain, pouring and pouring and pouring.
Still, a family hiking near Cades Cove Loop Road may have heard him.
They heard a little boy scream. The father knew he saw this dirty man. From where the sound of the little boy, he referred to him as disheveled, and the guy ran. And the guy got in the van and drove off at a high rate of speed.
What?
So I don't know if that was Dennis, you know.
Other clues pointed to Dennis.
They found a child's footprint. The FBI disregarded it.
And psychics around the country sent in their suggestions on where to look.
Nothing. He's never been spotted since.
Just a few days into his disappearance, Dennis had a birthday. Today, he would be 55. And if there's any trace in these woods, McCarter says Mother Nature has hidden it away.
For every year that the remains lay in the woods, the Great Smoky Mountains Park layers up 1 inch of debris. And Dennis is lost in 69. How many inches is that? This is 2017. Where would you look? You know.
In the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Leslie Ackerson, WBIR 10 News.
Crazy story.
Says they learned important lessons from the mistakes made in the Martin search, and those changes have helped find many children since. Dennis Martin's disappearance is still an open case. If you have any information, you can call the park with the tips on the number on your screen.
That's sad, man. Super sad.
I think you're telling us that you don't disagree with the 85,000 number of children that we lost contact with. I'm not saying you lost them. You said we lost contact with them. We don't know where those kids are. Is that fair to say?
We attempt to make a safety and well-being.
I understand that. Let's get to the point here. Let's just answer the direct question. When you made the call, you didn't get a response. Your letter tells me that you usually make 3 calls. You got no response on any of those 3 calls and 85,000 kids. Is that right?
In 81% of the calls, we are.
You lost 80. You didn't have contact with more than 85,000 kids. Is that fair to say? Is that right? I mean, just yes or no. We're not saying, oh, what's your percentage? 85,000 children that were placed by you. You made calls to check on them, and you made 3 calls on average. 85,000 of them. You have no idea where they are. You don't want to answer the question.
There was a case I just recently talked about regarding a physicist from Germany who was at a conference in Lake Arrowhead, California. He was on a trail with a group of people, and
my bad, y'all, but she misplaced 80,000 kids and talking about they couldn't get in contact. They ain't talked to them or nothing. I guess they put them into like the foster care system, and after that it was, I don't know, but 80,000? How? She definitely need her ass beat.
And he didn't feel well. And simultaneously, the counselor, who was the last in line, also didn't feel well. So the group went ahead, and the counselor and this physicist that was at the conference just kind of sat on a rock and waited. Well, the group got farther ahead, and this physicist got feeling a little better, he thought, and he didn't want to get that far behind, and he told the counselor, I'm going to take off. The counselor said, hey, I'll wait here. Well, he took off. That was the last time he was ever seen. And that was a strange one because it wasn't in a real deep wooded area. It was around Lake Arrowhead up above the LA County area. And he's never been found. It's been several years.
Wow.
Within the last 18 months, certain things again keep floating to the surface. And one of those things we found is that people of German ancestry have disappeared at a higher frequency than normal, and it's unexplainable why, and there aren't a lot of archived material that talk about a person's ethnicity, but the times that it seems as though German comes up more than it should be.
Are you able to see it? Yes, look. That's crazy. Are you able to see it? Yes, look.
Yeah, right.
Yes, look. That's crazy.
Man, I'll be so paranoid out there. But what y'all think? Like, with all these people just coming up missing like that and at these national parks and everything, what is going on? Something's going on, obviously. Ain't like the animals is killing them and like a person is out there stalking them or taking the time off to do all that, to go out there and, man, something's going on and they not talking about it. They don't ever talk about this stuff. So that's why I like doing this content, just to put it out, bring awareness to everybody. You know what I'm saying? Talk about it. Maybe somebody might ask some questions or something. But I got this lady. She did like an interview, little audio. She was talking about the national park system. So let's check that out, man. It's very chilling, like what she said. Y'all check this out.
And they're protected with stiff penalty if anyone starts fires or does anything within those forests. Well, we also know that those forests are home to cryptids or uncatalogued beings and entities, Sasquatches, clans of dogmen, and there are caverns that are sitting underneath these
I believe that.
lands too, that lead to underground, sensitive, natural underground spaces that also hold some significance in other life forms. And the reason it's a shout out is because, I know that there is a response team there's a federal response when people have interactions or encounters or sightings of the beings that we're not supposed to know exist, or the ones that are, when they leave their space or something happens, somebody gets killed or something, because, sometimes that happens. There's a federal response. And I think it's great that, they do what they can do to quell any kind of fear. I mean, on one hand, they would lose millions and millions and millions of dollars a year if they were forthright about what is in these national park systems. But on the other hand, too, they know that people would be out there with armed, trying to cause some harm to the innocence, of these populations that live in these national park systems.
What
There are also
populations is she
portals
talking
and
about?
portals, really, doorways. There have been accounts for decades, from Oregon to Colorado to even Michigan, in the forest, different situations of where portals opened up, or, just really interesting stories. And also people disappearing in thin air in a matter of seconds, Dave Politis covers that in his Missing 411, his Can-Am channel, which is here on YouTube. He covers that. But yeah, so I've always said that our forests and the deep woods, the vegetation itself is powerful, it's conscious, and the vegetation has the power, is the conductive factor in opening up portals. So the trees, the plants, they're opening up the portals. They can do that, that's that's what they do. Plants and trees are very intelligent. They have their own languages, and it's really, once you're in spaces like that, I mean, they have the ability to alter reality. And I don't mean by ingesting, something that you find in the forest, like mushrooms or anything. I mean, like, they literally have the ability to alter. They're intelligent,
Y'all hear that? Like this I mean, hey, this is for entertainment purposes only. You know what I'm saying? This is a very interesting topic. They can alter the reality in these four that's what she said. Like, they have the power and the ability to do that. But we don't know if it's proof or what's going on. But I know it's something going on out there. But we would never know unless we go and see for ourselves or something. Like, I don't know. It sounds crazy though. It sounds very crazy.
And there have been people that have gone in to the forest and have been found, weeks, months later and had no perception of time, or they appeared in the other part, well, some other part of the country. They appeared in some other part of the country with no recollection of how they got there. The concept of missing time.
That's
So
amazing.
the forest and vegetation is very misunderstood and under-respected, actually. I think trees and plants are really the gods here, of the land at least. And so, the federal government carved out a map, and they must have been instructed by some power to do that so that the migratory patterns of some of these cryptids could be shielded and protected, and that these clans of Sasquatches and other cryptid beings can have a place to dwell under the cover and the protection of the federal government. So, so that's a thing. And then, like I said,
I don't know
there
about
are
that.
species. I mean, it's been documented that there have been civilizations that ended up going underground and living underground and are still underground. And Kentucky is very cavernous, has a lot of reports of cryptids and dogmen, werewolves, and that sort of thing. And there's a couple of parks there, notorious parks there for incidences with campers and, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I appreciate them cutting out some space. But I think they had to. I don't think they had a choice because these cryptids and squatches, I mean, they're highly psychic beings, and the squatches can create bubbles, portals, and they can walk through them. We know that some of the dogmen have been reported to be able to mimic sound, which is where they say they got the characteristics from the Predator movies from. They can mimic sounds from anybody, a baby, an owl, anybody, in anything, I should have said, sorry. So those are, powerful traits, and they're large and they're powerful creatures, right? So, if we're going to cohabitate here, there has to be space for them. I'm sure there's an understanding. There must be some kind of I don't know, some sort of treaty, some sort of understanding with some other agency that supersedes the power of any Earth-based government, because I'm sure they had to come to an understanding, knowing the nature of the mindset.
Is she tripping, or if she kind of, is it a possibility some of these things could be true? Was she talking about portals out there and Sasquatches and altering reality with the type of the power and the energy they have and everything? Do y'all believe that? Like, is it a possibility? Is it? I know anything's possible. Nothing's impossible. And the way we've been lied to, I just believe anything can happen. So I don't know. Is it like you said? I mean, I don't know. Is it demonic? That's what y'all trying to say. Is demonic spirits out there and everything? Like, it's all this? Is it? What's going on? And why they not talking about the people who's missing? Like all these people who's vanishing and just become missing out the blue, just vanish in front of their friends. Like, why they not talking about this? They should be interviewing the people they was with, like right then at the time. Like, man, what happened? Like, they should be on top of this to see what's really going on. Or they just don't want to let us know. Y'all know what's up, man. Y'all make sure y'all like the video. I think it's almost over, man.
Of the powers that be. I mean, you would think they would just try to go in there and kill them all off. And there have been reported incidences where there have been selected cullings or killings of tribes or clans of Squatches or even Dogmen. I know there are protocols to neutralize them if there are any incidences, but they have to know, they must know that, somebody either told them or somebody had to tell them or make it obvious, or they had to learn that, they are not in a position to be wiping out anything, because there are powers that are much more stronger than any man, and that would cause serious problems for this government and beyond, because these cryptids are everywhere. They've been reported on every continent. But the portals are interesting, the trees, the vegetation, how the vegetation can create portals and be entryways to other dimensions, parallel worlds. I find that incredibly interesting in how the penalty.
Sky Princess. It's hard for me to believe because coming from where I come from, I'm from Flint, Michigan. Man, if you would have said something like some of this type of stuff to me like years ago, I would have looked at you like, "Is you crazy? What's wrong with you?" But as time went by, I started learning and doing research and everything and seeing the evidence and the proof in like some of these stories and stuff like that. And I started realizing like, man, it's a lot of crazy shit out there that people don't even know about. You know what I'm saying? And once you start learning all this stuff, man, it's crazy. Like it's overwhelming. But I guess part of waking up and crossing over to that other side of being woke, not letting them trick you no more. So but that's why it's so hard for me to believe, man. My bad, y'all.
For violating protected federal land are so steep. Wow, that says a lot. That absolutely says a lot. When there are constant issues elsewhere, with the land being polluted, these corporations and stuff, but don't go near those federally protected forests, don't go near them and try anything, because it'll be on and popping, not just with the government, but with what's living within those spaces. Yeah, so that's interesting. So shout out to them for keeping it funky and protecting those clans and those species. But they're also protecting their bottom line too by controlling who goes in there when they go into these spaces. And,
Yeah, that was just her thoughts and her opinions. A lot of that stuff I wasn't really riding with her on that, you know what I'm saying, on too much of that stuff. But like I said, it's possibility for everything. It's crazy out here how they've been doing this for so long, lying to us, not telling us the truth. And these sensitive topics, like I like doing this stuff and everything. Like I don't understand like why they would, like why YouTube or would try to mess with my channel for like doing this type of stuff. Ain't like I'm trying to like spread a false narrative or nothing. I'm just trying to bring awareness to like it's people coming up missing with no questions, no answers, no nothing. So I mean, hopefully everything be all right, man. I appreciate everybody who tapped in. I'm gonna keep on doing this stuff and coming back with it. We definitely gonna be tapping back in on this topic for sure, because it's a lot more out there that I ain't even get into because I didn't want to make a long video. But I appreciate everybody who tapped in. It's your boy Thou, FamOverTV. Please make sure you like the video. I'll be back real soon, y'all. Peace.
Fam over.